This was probably 10, 12 years ago. We did some promos for Pawn Stars in the UK. And so what we did is we sent old couples, you know.
These revelations will completely change the way you see the Pawn Stars family. The world knows the Harrisons for their iconic rags to riches rise, but behind the shining storefront lies a series of secrets far darker than anyone imagined. Hidden for years beneath the success of their booming business, these truths are finally coming to light. What has the Harrison family been hiding all this time? And how will these long-buried secrets reshape their legacy? Join us as we uncover the shocking truths the Harrisons never wanted revealed. What lies beneath the Pawn Stars' legacy? For years, the Harrison family projected the perfect image of hard work and the legendary rise from nothing to something. Pawn Stars made them household names, transforming a small Las Vegas pawn shop into a global television empire. Millions watched as the Harrisons turned everyday negotiations into entertainment gold. It was the ultimate rags-to-riches story, polished, packaged, and broadcast across the world. But behind the fame was always something unspoken. Like any family that becomes famous overnight, whispers began to circulate, and yet, as time passed, the hints became harder to ignore. And the shadows behind the Harrison legacy grew longer. The public saw a family united by business, but those closest to them and people who crossed paths with the gold and silver pawn shop long before the TV crews arrived noticed subtleties that didn't make it onto the show. Most families on reality TV have disagreements, but the Harrison story felt different. There was tension behind the counters. Certain conversations were cut short when strangers walked in. And there was a strange sense that not everything was as picture-perfect as advertised. Rick Harrison, the face of the empire, had always spoken proudly about his father, Richard the Old Man Harrison. Their bond, solidified through years of business partnership, became one of the show's emotional pillars. Yet off-screen, people close to the family hinted that their story wasn't always so smooth. There were years of struggle and sacrifice that they simply didn't talk about. Many assumed these were just normal family issues, financial hardships, business pressure, or private arguments like any other family. But others sensed there was more. Every great rise comes with a price, and every success story has chapters that never make it to prime time. The Harrisons were no exception. Then came the gradual revelations: lawsuits, disputes, financial conflicts, and strained relationships hidden beneath the polished television exterior. Some of these issues leaked into public view, forming the first cracks in the clean-cut narrative America had accepted. Still, the darker stories remained locked away, protected by silence and time. Whenever someone tried to dig deeper, it always led to a dead end. And then, of course, came the most significant warning sign: the family's silence. Many celebrities shut down rumors with confidence, but the Harrisons rarely addressed theirs at all. They simply moved on, changed the subject, or let the public fill in the blanks. For some, this was normal privacy. For others, it was a clue, a sign that the true story was more complicated than fans realized. People began asking deeper questions. What happened in the early years of the pawn shop? What did the family endure to build their empire? The untold story behind the Pawn Stars patriarch. If you've ever watched Pawn Stars, you already know Rick Harrison as the sharp-eyed negotiator behind the counter. Quick with a fact, quicker with a deal, and almost impossible to fool. But long before the TV lights and the tourists lined up outside his father's pawn shop, Rick's life was shaped by a series of unexpected hardships and quiet obsessions that most fans never hear about. His story begins far away from the Las Vegas Strip, and honestly, it's far more fascinating than most people expect. Rick was in Lexington, North Carolina, to Richard Benjamin Harrison Jr., better known today as the Old Man, and Joanne Rue Harrison. If you know anything about the Old Man's famously strict, quiet demeanor on the show, you might imagine he was always that way, but he had already lived a full life before Rick was born. including serving in the U.S. Navy. Rick grew up with 3 siblings, though tragedy touched the family early. His sister, Sherry Joanne, died at just 6 years old. It's the kind of loss a family never really gets over. People often ask whether the Harrison family is related to the famous U.S. President William Henry Harrison. Rick himself always shrugged it off, treating it like an interesting rumor rather than fact. His father, on the other hand, insisted they were at least distantly linked to President Benjamin Harrison, William Henry's grandson. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but it certainly gives the family history a mysterious little glow of presidential legacy. When Rick was just 2, the Navy moved his father to San Diego, and the family packed up their North Carolina life and headed west. San Diego is where Rick spent most of his childhood, though those years were anything but normal. Around age 8, he started experiencing epileptic seizures, episodes that kept him in bed for long stretches of time. But here's where his story takes a turn most fans don't expect. Being stuck in bed sparked a love of reading that would follow him for the rest of his life. He devoured books, especially a series called The Great Brain by John D. Fitzgerald. Its main character, a clever, mischievous kid who always found a scheme to make money, became a sort of blueprint for young Rick. It's almost uncanny how similar that fictional character is to the man Rick eventually became. Even he admits the influence was huge. His curiosity didn't stop there. Rick fell in love with physics, and he became obsessed with history, particularly the British Royal Navy of the late 1700s and early 1800s. You can see shades of that obsession in the way he talks about historical items on the show, analyzing everything like a puzzle to be solved. School, however, wasn't his thing. He attended Taft Middle School in San Diego, but dropped out in 10th grade to pursue something far more entrepreneurial. At just 16, he was making around $2,000 a week selling counterfeit Gucci bags. It wasn't exactly legal, but it revealed the hustler's instinct he would later refine into a legitimate business empire. But life didn't stay simple for long. In 1981, the Harrison family's real estate business collapsed. They were forced to leave San Diego behind and start fresh in Las Vegas. Imagine the pressure of uprooting your life because everything you depended on fell apart. That kind of experience shapes a person, and it definitely shaped Rick. Life didn't slow down once they arrived in Vegas. At 17, Rick's girlfriend Kim became pregnant. Though the first pregnancy ended in miscarriage, they chose to get married, and soon after, their first son, Corey, was born in 1983. 2 years later, Adam followed, but the marriage didn't last. Rick and Kim separated not long after Adam's birth. 9 months later, Rick met Tracy on a blind double date. Within 6 months, they were living together, and within a year, they were married. Life was moving fast, and Rick was hustling to build something stable out of the chaos. Meanwhile, his father opened a tiny 300-square-foot shop in 1981 called the Gold and Silver Coin Shop. By day, Rick worked the counter. By night, he repossessed cars. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a grind, and he never shied away from it. 5 years later, the shop moved to Fremont Street. 2 years after that, they lost the lease and had to move again. And through all of this, Rick had a vision. He and his father wanted a pawn shop. It was the next logical step, but a decades-old Las Vegas law made pawn licenses incredibly rare. So Rick did something only a determined or slightly obsessed person would do. He called the city statistician every single week for years, waiting for Las Vegas's population to hit 250,000 so more licenses could be issued. It finally happened in 1989. And that same year, after a messy legal battle, the Harrisons opened the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop at its now famous location on Las Vegas Boulevard. The rest, as they say, is history. But the early years weren't glamorous. By 2005, the shop was loaning out $3 million annually and bringing in around $700,000 in interest. They became known for rare sports memorabilia, helping down on their luck gamblers, and taking chances on odd items that sometimes turned into gold. Rick's knowledge and love of history became his greatest weapon. When Pawn Stars came along, the world finally saw what Las Vegas locals had seen for years: a man with a sharp mind, an unusual past, and a talent for turning stories into profit. And eventually, he expanded his empire even more, opening the Smoke BBQ and Tavern in 2015, where he occasionally bartended, much to fans' delight. It's easy to look at Rick Harrison now and see only the success, but behind the scenes, his story is built on a childhood shaped by illness, a family reshaped by tragedy, years of financial collapse, risky teenage hustles, chaotic relationships, and sheer persistence. And when you look at the whole picture, you can't help but wonder, if this is the part of Rick Harrison's life he's willing to share, what stories remain behind the curtain? The legal battles that shook Pawn Stars. While Pawn Stars has long been celebrated as one of History Channel's most successful reality shows, the world behind the cameras has not been without turmoil. Over the years, the cast and the production have faced a series of legal battles that reveal just how complicated the business of reality television can be. Back in 2012, two major lawsuits brought attention to disputes between the Harrisons and the talent industry. Wayne Jeffries, a promoter who had helped pitch the Pawn Stars concept, sued both the cast and A&E, the parent company of the History Channel. His claims centered on breach of an oral contract, alleging that he had not been properly compensated for his role in launching the show and for merchandising deals tied to the series. For Jeffries, it wasn't just about recognition, it was about money he felt was rightfully owed to him after helping bring the series to life. Around the same time, Venture YAB Inc., a talent agency, filed a separate $5 million lawsuit, claiming that executives at History Channel had intentionally interfered with their contracts. According to the suit, the network allegedly encouraged the Pawn Stars cast to switch representation to a rival agent, Michael Camacho, effectively poaching the talent and undermining Venture IAB's agreements. The agency argued that they lost millions of dollars in commissions as a direct result of the interference, highlighting the high-stakes nature of managing reality TV personalities. It wasn't just business disputes that caught attention. Olivia Black, a former employee on the show, filed a discrimination lawsuit after she was let go following the resurfacing of provocative pinup photos from her past. The case added a more personal dimension to the legal drama surrounding Pawn Stars, raising questions about image, reputation, and workplace rights in the entertainment industry. Even the gold and silver pawn shop itself found itself at the center of controversy. In 2014, a stolen coin collection was sold to the shop by an individual. Because of Nevada's legal regulations and the time it took for law enforcement to notify the shop, the coins could not be returned to their original owner and may have been melted down. The incident underscored the complexities of running a pawn shop, where items change hands quickly and legal responsibilities can be complicated. Together, these lawsuits and disputes reveal a side of Pawn Stars that most fans never see. Behind the humor, the iconic black suits, and the treasure-hunting excitement is a world filled with contracts, negotiations, and legal wrangling. For the Harrisons, navigating these challenges required not just business savvy, but resilience, as they balanced the pressures of fame, family, and finance. While the cameras captured the fun, the deals, and the occasional argument in the shop, the off-screen legal battles served as a reminder that reality television is far from simple. From agency conflicts to personal lawsuits and even stolen property issues, the Harrisons' experience highlights just how complex the entertainment industry can be and how much work goes on behind the scenes to keep a show running smoothly. In the end, the legal controversies surrounding Pawn Stars faded into the background, overshadowed by far more devastating events. Tragedies so severe they nearly brought an end to a dynasty that had survived countless scandals. What were these events? Adam Harrison and the untold darkness of his death. Adam Harrison's story is one that caught the world off guard, not just because of the tragedy itself, but because so few people truly knew who he was. For years, fans of Pawn Stars saw Rick and Corey almost every week. But Adam? He was the quiet Harrison, the one who stayed out of the spotlight, the one people rarely talked about, until his name suddenly made headlines for the worst possible reason. When the news of his death broke, it shocked even longtime followers of the show. At just 39 years old, Adam lost his life to a fentanyl overdose. It's the kind of ending that feels painfully common today. Yet when it happens close to a famous family, the story hits differently. It becomes more than a statistic and more personal. What made the situation even more unsettling was the involvement of the Las Vegas Metro Police Department. They confirmed that an investigation was still open at the time, which immediately raised eyebrows. Usually, overdose cases are straightforward. This one didn't seem to be. There was a sense that the authorities wanted to understand more. And that alone added an uneasy layer to an already heartbreaking moment. The Harrison family handled the news with devastation. They kept their statements brief, choosing privacy over publicity, which only made people even more curious. Fans began revisiting the family's history, piecing together what they knew about Adam, and realizing how much they didn't know. Adam was Rick's second child with his first wife, Kim, and Corey's younger brother. Later, when Rick remarried, the family grew again with the addition of Jake. But even within the family unit, Adam's path was noticeably different. While Corey became the face of the next generation of pawn experts, Adam moved in the opposite direction. Before Pawn Stars ever aired, Adam actually worked at the gold and silver pawn shop. He was there, behind the scenes, long before the shop became a tourist landmark. He helped build the foundation that the show later stood on, and then he stepped away. He simply disappeared from the family business before the world even knew the Harrison name. When the show began in 2009, Adam wasn't part of it. He wasn't in the background or even mentioned. For years, fans didn't even realize there was another Harrison brother, and that quietness fueled endless speculation. Some believe he preferred a peaceful private life. Others think he struggled with issues the family never discussed openly. And some people sense there was tension, decisions, or events behind the scenes that simply never reached the public. Even after his death became news, details about his final years remained minimal. There were no long explanations from family members, just a handful of photos, a few early memories, and then silence. A silence that makes people wonder what had been happening in his world long before things spiraled. What makes Adam's story even more emotional is his place in the family structure. Rick, known for his confidence and business savvy, suddenly looked like a man carrying a weight he didn't want to talk about. Corey, usually upbeat and joking, had lost not just a sibling, but someone who had grown up beside him in the same world of pawn shops, customers, and long days behind the counter. And in the middle of all of this is the strange fact that Adam's death wasn't just a closed chapter. Investigators didn't treat it as something simple or routine. That single detail created a shadow that still lingers over the story. What exactly happened? Who was with him? What was going on in his life in those final months? And why was his case handled with more caution than expected? It's not the kind of mystery that gets solved with a single statement. It's the kind that stays tucked beneath family privacy and unanswered questions. The sad part is that this wasn't the only tragedy the family faced during that time. An earlier loss had already shaken the very foundation of Pawn Stars. So, what happened? The old man of Pawn Stars, and the legacy he left behind. The world lost a legend when Richard Harrison, affectionately known as the Old Man on Pawn Stars, passed away at the age of 77 after a battle with Parkinson's disease. He was the patriarch of a family, the backbone of a business, and a figure who left an indelible mark on millions of fans worldwide. Richard Benjamin Harrison's life was a fascinating combination of discipline and humor and resilience. A Navy veteran, he brought a stern, no-nonsense presence to the gold and silver pawn shop, which he ran alongside Rick. Together, they transformed a small Las Vegas pawn store into a world-famous destination for collectors, gamblers, and curious visitors from all corners of the globe. But beyond the cameras and the business deals, Richard was the quiet force holding a family together, a family whose public antics often masked private struggles. The nickname "the Old Man" stuck when Richard was just 38, a moniker that would come to define his television persona. Deadpan, sardonic, yet full of a sharp wit that could cut through the tension of any negotiation. Fans adored his feigned grumpiness and his subtle humor, often a foil to the younger, more impulsive energy of Rick, his grandson Corey, and the lovable Austin "Chumlee" Russell. But beneath the familiar black suit and fedora was a man shaped by experience, loss, and the relentless drive to provide for his family. Behind the scenes, however, the life of the Old Man was far more complex than the show could convey. Rick often teased him, Corey occasionally challenged him, and Chumlee provided comic relief. But Harrison's experiences before the cameras had shaped a man who understood both the value of money and the cost of trust. Even as the world celebrated him, those close to him knew that Parkinson's disease was slowly, invisibly taking its toll. Yet Harrison's spirit never wavered. He continued to guide the family, mentor staff, and even occasionally step in front of the cameras. Tributes poured in from fans, colleagues, and the media. History called him a beloved member of the Pawn Stars family, whose wisdom and candor would be deeply missed. ITV America described him as a true hidden treasure, acknowledging the profound impact he had not just on the success of the series, but on the lives he touched. And for Rick, the loss was intensely personal, a father and a mentor whose influence would linger long after the cameras stopped rolling. Richard Harrison's death didn't just close a chapter in the Pawn Stars' legacy, it exposed the cracks beneath reality TV's polished surface. Soon after, a troubling and unexpected issue emerged, involving his mother, the last parent he still had. Rick Harrison sued by his own mother over family business. The world of Pawn Stars has always seemed larger than life, but behind the cameras, real-life drama has taken center stage, this time hitting closer to home than anyone could have imagined, especially when Rick faced a lawsuit from none other than his own mother, Joanne Harrison. The dispute involved family assets and the ownership of the iconic gold and silver pawn shop in Las Vegas. According to court filings, Joanne Harrison launched the civil lawsuit in Nevada State Court. The defendants listed were extensive: Rick Harrison himself, the gold and silver pawn shop, and several of Rick's business entities, including Harrison Properties and Joe Rich Properties. The allegations, though civil in nature, painted a picture of long-standing tension over control and transparency within the family empire. The heart of the complaint revolves around ownership of the pawn shop. Joanne Harrison, who was married to the late Richard Harrison for 58 years, claimed that during a hospitalization in 2000 or 2001, Rick convinced her to sign over 51% of her ownership in the pawn shop. At the time, the business was already a thriving operation in Las Vegas, but it hadn't yet reached the international fame it achieved nearly a decade later as the setting for Pawn Stars. The lawsuit went on to allege that when Richard Harrison passed away in 2018, Joanne inherited his remaining 49% stake. From her perspective, Rick has failed to provide full transparency regarding the shop's finances, leaving her unable to access critical information about what the family business has truly accumulated over the years. According to the complaint, this includes more than $500,000 in cash and silver that she believes her husband had amassed prior to his death. The figures, though not publicly verified, suggest a sum substantial enough to make any family dispute deeply personal. Rick Harrison, speaking to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, defended himself. He claimed the allegations were false and suggested that his elderly mother was being influenced by others for their own benefit. The timing of the lawsuit added another layer of intrigue. Pawn Stars has long relied on the on-screen chemistry of the Harrisons. Rick, his father Richard, grandson Corey, and family friend Austin Chumley Russell to maintain a mix of humor, business savvy, and occasional drama. Now, however, the real-life tension threatens to overshadow the scripted antics fans have come to love. The question arises, could the family feud cast a shadow over the show itself? While History Channel has yet to comment publicly, insiders suggest that the Harrison family has always been fiercely protective of its brand, making this lawsuit particularly sensitive. Legal experts explained that the case hinged on a few key elements: the legitimacy of the 2000/2001 transaction, whether Joanne Harrison fully understood what she was signing, and the accuracy of financial records provided by Rick since then. If the court finds that Rick improperly acquired his mother's majority share or has withheld information about the business, it could trigger significant legal consequences, including the creation of a constructive trust over property that belongs to Joanne Harrison. Such a ruling would effectively place portions of the pawn shop and its assets under court supervision until ownership and accounting issues are resolved. The lawsuit also requested unspecified damages and seeks a court order preventing Rick from using funds that Joanne considers hers. The fact that this dispute involves a public figure whose business has generated millions in interest and sales makes it especially sensational. For longtime fans of Pawn Stars, the case proved a sobering reality. Fame and fortune do not insulate anyone from family conflict. The Harrisons have always projected a playful, sometimes abrasive on-screen dynamic, but the lawsuit offered a glimpse of what happens when personal and financial boundaries collide. The familial closeness that made the show endearing is now part of a legal battle that could redefine relationships within the Harrison family for years to come. The broader narrative here is compelling because it touches on themes that resonate far beyond reality TV. Inheritance disputes, questions of trust, and the responsibilities tied to family businesses are universal issues. But when they involve public figures like Rick Harrison, they take on an added layer of fascination. As legal proceedings unfold, the story will continue to draw attention from fans and media alike, all curious to see whether the legendary pawn shop patriarch can navigate the same negotiations off-camera that made him famous on screen. But after the most dramatic negotiations that almost had negative impact on the show, a tragic event recently occurred that showed just how fickle life is, even for celebrities that appeared untouchable. Another heartbreaking loss for the Harrison family. The Harrison family has endured more than their fair share of heartache over the past several years. Just as fans of Pawn Stars were adjusting to life without Richard, the old man, Harrison, following his death in 2018, tragedy struck again. In November 2025, Rick Harrison's mother, Joanne Harrison, passed away at the age of 85 due to kidney failure. Joanne Harrison was more than just a matriarch. She was a witness to and participant in the family's remarkable journey. Married to Richard Harrison for a long time, she saw the family rise from a small pawn shop in Las Vegas to international fame on Pawn Stars. Her presence helped shape the family dynamic fans came to know and love. Though she never appeared on screen like Rick, Corey, or Chumley, Joanne was integral behind the scenes, supporting the family business, raising her children, and holding the family together through both the trials and triumphs of life. Her death, on November 5, 2025, came quietly but left a deep emptiness. Kidney failure has been a lingering issue, but the passing of a family elder always resonates deeply, especially when the family has already been navigating layers of grief. For Rick, losing both a parent and a child within the span of several years is an emotional challenge few can imagine, and yet he has remained committed to the legacy of his family's business and the memories of those he loved. The timing of Joanne's passing also comes at a moment of uncertainty for Pawn Stars. After more than a decade on the air, the series is on an indefinite hiatus following the conclusion of its latest contract with the History Channel. Fans have been left wondering if and when the show might return, though the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop itself continues to operate in Las Vegas, a living reminder of the family's enduring legacy. The shop remains open for business, keeping the Harrison name alive, even as the cameras have paused and the spotlight has dimmed. The show's break and the family's personal losses intersect in a way that makes the future of the franchise feel uncertain. Pawn Stars became a cultural phenomenon, blending humor, history, and the excitement of discovering rare treasures. It wasn't just a television program, it was a window into the daily lives of the Harrisons and their interactions with people from all walks of life. Now, as the family mourns, fans are left to wonder whether the show will ever capture the same energy again without the full family present and without the vibrant personalities that made it so unique. Rick, along with his son Corey and longtime friend Austin Chumley Russell, continues to operate the shop, keeping the heart of Pawn Stars alive even without filming. For those who frequent the shop or follow the family, the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop stands as undeniable proof of the Harrisons' relentless will to push forward. Despite personal tragedies, business challenges, and a changing television landscape, the family remains connected to the community and committed to their craft. How close did the Pawn Stars dynasty come to losing everything? And what unanswered question still haunts the family today? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.